Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of some little sockets. What we have here is the O'Reilly's PowerTorque quarter-inch drive universal security Torx socket set. We have a 7-piece set here, but I'll criticize them a bit because they're selling these as a 4-piece set and an additional 3-piece set. Retail price, $5 per socket. They want a whopping $35. I did have a 15% off coupon. Woo, I paid 30 bucks. Still quite a bit of money, but these are pretty unique bits, and so I addictively picked them up, and I thought they were okay. These are kind of definitely are unique bits and could save you in some certain situations, and that's kind of the reason I picked them up, is mainly because they do include them as security with the hole drilled in the center. It seems a lot of Torx sockets are coming that way. That way, if you just happen to run into a security Torx, you already have the bits. Although it does cost just a little bit of strength. And these do get in some pretty tight areas. I've done certainly quite a few reviews of little quarter-inch hex ratchets and drivers. But what the advantage to these are is obviously they're on a universal, so you can get in a pretty tight situation where you can't get a right angle ratchet and you can't get in there straight. But there happens to be some type of object. This seems to be maybe a more common on more modern automobiles and such, just because they're packing so much more electronics, and a lot of them are using these types of Torx screws, particularly the security ones. What did also attract me to these is they do look pretty decent. They are Taiwanese, and then they actually use hex screws to screw these joints together. So you can take them apart and rebuild them if they get loose, try to stretch out the little tension springs and clean them up. And I've always liked that. Even if there is a chance of these screws coming loose, I do like the ability to at least be able to take it apart and maintain it. Another distinct advantage of being able to at least take these apart in particular is that these are essentially quarter-inch drive by quarter-inch universal sockets that were broached just a little bit tighter so they could press fit these in there. So if these bits do wear out, I really like the fact that I can undo the screw, pull this whole piece out, and actually press the old bit out, and then grind the back of another bit and then press it back into this little collet. It's not a collet, but it's a receiver. And I thought, oh, that's actually pretty interesting because of that. They can potentially the tips can be replaced and rebuilt. And so I thought, okay, so they're a bit expensive, but there are something that potentially can have a decent lifetime. It is T8 through T30. They do include the T27, which I do appreciate. That seems to be, that would be this one here. Had those mixed up. T27s I run into quite a bit on tools, and what ends up happening often is you use a T25 and you just assume it's a loose-fitting T25, and it's really a T27. And it's one of the oddities of the Torx sizing system is that T27. It's just a really odd in-between size, and actually, like on skill saws and various other power tools, that's the exact size that they use. Oh, and by the way, I used to, some people complain because they're like, well, that's not a General Motors, I don't know, it just happens to be GM. But actually, before O'Reilly's bought Shucks, this is what they were sold as. They were actually GM Performance Parts sockets, actual by, General Motors Corporation. And then they just changed it over to the PowerTorque name, kept the GM part numbers, but actually dropped the actual General Motors logo. So it was kind of interesting to be able to find both of these so I could show how, it really is. General Motors really did get involved in making hand tools. So anyway, that was my review of this little bit set, just because it happens to be something pretty specially and unique. I don't know if I mentioned, but they do little undercuts for the ball detents on quarter-inch. It seems about half of quarter-inch tools, they don't include those little undercuts, so it's nice they did include them here. And these definitely could be a lifesaver in real particular situations. And the fact that you can grind down and press in new tips is a big deal, because obviously when you're using these, it's going to be difficult to try to make sure that this tip is absolutely square in the fastener. So it's always going to get rocked around, and it's going to beat up the sharp corners. And it's something you're going to want to be careful of, but this is definitely much more compact than using a universal joint, a 1/4 inch universal joint with a 1/4 inch square to 1/4 inch hex adapter on it, and then the bit in it. These are going to be about half that size. And I'm always into these kind of tools, and then it's always nice to build up 1/4 inch. And I guess that's about the end of that. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing and commenting. I've been trying to get better at the comments, but I, like many YouTubers say, I really do read them. And I will get better at responding to them, but I really do appreciate everybody who leaves the comments, just however they are. You know, this is a learning experience for both of us. And that's why I like talking about this kind of stuff. And I guess the last point I'll make is that the little socket holders that they come with are tamper resistant. So you think that you get the sockets, and then, you know, if you didn't have enough strip space, you still keep them on the plastic holders. But no, because they're tamper resistant, you have to use a pair of pliers to crush these little tabs in order to remove the sockets. So unfortunately, you can't use these as a temporary socket holders because you have to use pliers to get the sockets on and off. Anyway, really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.